Hello, everyone, and welcome to another week of The Crown Breakdown, hosted by Classical Chats with Hayden and Liz.
Hello, friends. Hi. Welcome to your next installment of The Crown, Season 4. We've hit episode 3, titled Fairy Tale.
Fairy tale.
Now, this episode is all around Lady Diana Spencer and beginning her transition into the royal family. Liz, what were your first impressions?
Well, there's one thing that I have to mention that I've seen all over my Facebook feed, and that is in the opening sequence, there is a mouse that runs across the floor.
Yes, there is. There is a mouse. I saw it, and everybody is losing their mind. I think it was something because that was with the Queen Mother, and that was at
Hmm.
Clarence House, which is
Hmm.
it's filmed on location. I don't know where it's filmed at, but that particular drawing room is filmed at location. So someone's house has a mouse in it.
Well, and from what I've heard, that's actually fairly accurate for the house that the
Hmm.
Queen Mother was living in. So, accuracy points, 10 out of 10. If that is an actual mouse that just happened to mistakenly run across, 10 out of 10 for including it, because if it's accurate, it's accurate. Awesome. But,
I
um,
have a couple anecdotes to add into that as to
yeah,
why it
yeah,
was accurate. But yes, but continue. First
yes.
impressions, what you first thought of the episode.
I hate Charles so much.
Oh yes.
I hate Charles so much. And I'm saying this about the character. Now, something that I feel like we might have mentioned last time, or might have failed to mention. This is not a 100% true reenactment of every single event. So as I am talking about these
Yes.
people, I do not mean the person themselves. I am, well, except for no, I'm not gonna even go there. Not gonna even go there.
Yes, so Peter Morgan and everybody associated with the crown has made it very clear that the statement that they're trying to describe is this is what we think may have happened. This is based off speculation. This is based off of a myriad of research into character development, into books that have been published, reports and palace aides and former friends of the family that are filling in details. Okay, and there's a generic historical outline that Peter Morgan is
Yeah.
following.
Yeah.
And while we know the cold, hard facts, especially looking back, we know the cold, hard facts. But the one thing that Peter Morgan is trying to do is imagine what happened behind closed doors. Imagine
Absolutely.
what happened in these private conversations. This is his portrayal. Granted, these are real characters, but they're real characters in fictitious situations,
Yeah.
which is why this season Emma Corrin and Joshua Connor have said these felt more like characters in a large story. We didn't really, the goal's to not do mimicry and an impersonation of these
Yeah.
characters. It's to get the essence of them and put them in these, you know, realized fictitious situations. So to completely defend you, yeah, the portrayal of Prince Charles, he is an asshole this
Yeah.
episode.
Yeah. Well, and one, I hate Charles, and two, I hate Camilla. So that just
Oh my goodness.
Ooh.
She over completely overstepped her mark
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
in at that lunch. But what are some things that happened that were real? Well, one, as someone who was engaged before, that whole opening sequence when he's making phone calls, that hit me
Mm-hmm.
right here. I am not married. I was about to be married, but the episode opened and he's proposed. Now, this is where some speculation. Some people believe Charles proposed at Camilla's house to Diana, and Charles were at Camilla's house in her garden. That's one idea. Another idea, which I believe is what Andrew Morton wrote in his book, I could be wrong, is that he proposed over the phone. Another one is that he was in the nursery at Windsor. There's a bunch of different stories going on, but the one thing that happened is he didn't really get down. He was kind of like, "Hey, are we, we doing this or not?" So the energy of that is real, but the location is up to speculation. I don't
Yeah.
even think Charles has come out and said this is where it actually happened.
Yeah.
But as someone who was engaged, that opening scene of making phone calls and the different levels of excitement, that is very real. I felt like it was 2018. 2018 was what I did? 2018, 2019. I
That
forget
sounds
when I was
right.
engaged.
That sounds
Yeah,
right.
it's about the same. Yeah,
I know that you were wedding planning, and in
it was 2019.
2018,
It was 2019. Yeah,
yeah,
was it 2018?
2018,
Yes,
I
yes,
was shopping
it
for
was
a
2018.
dress on
Yes, it was
Black
2018.
Friday. Yeah.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. It was 2018. I was like, when was I? When did I get engaged? Back to center. So the big thing that I appreciate about this episode, and we can talk about it, is it did not hold back with Diana's mental illness.
No, and so we should go ahead and just put a trigger warning right here. We will be discussing eating disorders, specifically binging and purging, bulimia. So there is a warning at the beginning of this episode on Netflix. So it very strictly says there are depictions of eating disorders. If have an eating disorder or are I don't know, it's touchy. I'm trying to find the perfect word for it, but it's not coming to my brain right now.
If you are eating disorder sensitive, if this is a
Yes.
sensitive topic for you, this
Yeah.
is your disclaimer because Netflix doesn't pull
Yes.
any punches. And that's one thing that
No.
both Peter Morgan and Emma Corrin agreed upon. And like they were sort of touchy feely, are we going to do this? Are we not going to do this? And in her book and in interviewing especially the secret tapes that are now Diana, in her own words, the documentary on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't hold any punches back, and so they both agreed that if we're gonna do it, we're gonna do it, and that
Yeah.
was at Emma's suggestion to have that disclaimer at the front
And I'm
of,
happy that they
hey,
have that
this is.
disclaimer.
I am very happy that they had it too. But this doesn't hold any punches, and
No.
as I really relate to some of the struggles Princess Diana went through, not necessarily bulimia, but having a weird relationship with food, and
Mm-hmm.
also coming from a divided household. Her parents divorced when she was a kid, and around
Yeah.
the same age when my I was around the same age comparatively when her parents split. She was about 8, 9 when things began to really fall apart and things split. So I really relate to her struggle, and you can really feel. I loved that this episode, it was handled in such care,
Yeah.
and it was very sensitive that she was really struggling, and she
Absolutely.
was very much left alone when Charles was gone for 6 weeks. The queen was busy, the queen mother was, all the other royals were busy, and she was just left alone.
Yeah.
Now, I to make it a little bit lighter, her roommates are rad. I want to
I
party with her
love her.
roommates.
I love her
Her,
flatmates. I want to
oh
go
my
purchase
goodness.
them so badly. I wanted so much more of them in this series. And here, let me pull up my notes cuz there was one line that I just absolutely adore, and it's you'll have other things to worry about, blah, 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 like being the effing queen. But they don't say
Yes,
effing. They
they
and I'm
go
just
there.
like, they go there and I'm like,
They say the actual
yes.
word. I loved the moments we got to see Diana really sort of be herself. She's dancing, she's
Yes.
drinking, she's having fun, she's newly engaged, and also Stevie Nicks and Fleetwood Mac make an
Yes.
appearance.
Yes.
I was here for it. And then we can feel this general excitement where they go back to Windsor, which Windsor is one of my favorite royal
Yeah.
residences. Windsor and Balmoral are two of my favorites. And what would you do if she goes, this is like a box of chocolates, except these chocolates are different, and it opens this box and there's just diamond ring after diamond ring. What would you do in that situation?
I they're I mean all of them were gorgeous, but I'm just like uh pretty shiny. I I mean for me, I know the kind of engagement ring that I want. I'm definitely more of a white gold than a standard gold, but if I had those options, God, Damn, would I be happy?
I know. I know. It reminded me, there were many scenes when I looked at the screen and went, I know exactly how you feel. Like when the jeweler opened everything and she was just struck and staring and in awe. Because that's how I was when I went engagement
Oh
shopping
yeah.
with my ex-fiance. I was very much, I don't know what's going on. I'm just in shock that we're actually doing
Yeah.
this. I will say one of the rings though did look like the one. It was the first one. There was a really close shot where you see
Hmm.
one that's red, and it looks like a pretty good replica of what the soon-to-be Duchess of York wore.
Mm.
That it
Okay.
looked very similar to hers. I noticed that there was. I don't know if that was just coincidence, or it was
Potentially.
that was a replica that they got that day. But
Yeah.
I really appreciated in this episode as it progressed. We, along with Diana, we could feel her mental illness coming out, especially when it
Yeah.
was lots of dark colors, close shots.
Yeah.
Um, but this episode really made me feel sad for her. It
Yeah. Absolutely.
really
I
made me feel
mean,
sad for her.
we're just to kind of glaze over some things. We get to see her come into Windsor, and her first interaction at Windsor is with the entire royal family. And Margaret is in the middle of telling a story. And it's just like, first of all, Margaret's mad because you interrupted her story by
Interrupted
just
her.
entering. Um, and so then the entire, like, knowing the order of who you need to curtsy to and what you need to say
Her
is,
level of anxiety, I
oh,
felt
I felt
it
it.
was all on her face when she first showed up to Buckingham Palace. It was Buckingham Palace, not
Oh, backing.
Windsor.
My
It
bad.
was
My
yeah,
bad.
it was yeah, it was it's Buckingham Palace, which is fine, which is fine. Yeah, when she first got to Buckingham Palace, you could feel her excitement, and she looked real cute, and you got to see her apartment, and she was all excited. Oh my goodness! And then she goes to meet everybody, and she just goes make a beeline for Charles because that's what she's used to. And then
Hmm.
she's like, "Oh God, I don't know," and you can see her just deer in the headlights moment.
And
And Margaret,
yeah.
God bless her soul.
One thing that I would say is the way that they shot this, everybody was in a circle. And so Diana was in the middle of the circle. And so having those kind of shots where you're kind of going around the circle just because she's going in trying to find out the order that she is supposed to greet everyone, but also that kind of spiral of the
Hmm.
cinematography just worked really well at amping up the anxiety of that scene.
It worked. It worked so well, and Um, a couple things that the show took creative liberty on. She actually, if my memory's correct with Andrew Morton's book, she actually spent more time at Clarence House.
Okay.
She had an apartment in Buckingham Palace, but she sort of flopped between Clarence House, and she compared Clarence House at the time to just a very nice hotel.
Hmm.
She was like, "Oh, this," but it was very cold. It was very sterile. But
Yeah.
she sort of rotated because I know on her wedding night she was at Clarence House because she was with her
Mm.
sisters. She was at Clarence House and she had, her big panic attack of, "Oh my goodness, this can happen." And they went, "Well,
Yeah.
too luck, Dutch. Your face is
Too
already on the
late.
tea towels.
Too
You're too late
late.
here." Um, but yeah, she had her own apartments at Buckingham Palace, but she also had a room at Clarence House, and she sort of split between there. Now, one thing I find sort of not fun that I can't remember ever being mentioned in Andrew Morton's book or in any book that I've read of Diana is that her grandma was the one that trained her, or
Mm.
the Granny, as she's called, the
Yeah.
character of Granny. I don't know if it's actually her literal grandma or if it's one of the many ladies in waiting. That is unclear to me, but she went through etiquette training.
Hmm.
We have 6 sessions to get this done in 6 weeks. Where here's order precedent,
Yeah.
here's this, here's that. So I really appreciate. I know Catherine, the Duchess of Cambridge, went through something like that. She
Yeah.
did. That she went through some type, and she had been groomed for the role,
Oh
where
yes. Oh
Diana
yes.
really wasn't. Diana
Yeah.
was not groomed at all, and you could really feel. I really appreciated that it was her naive. You could really feel that sense of not necessarily naive, but she really felt over her head,
Yes.
and that thought of her sitting in the bathtub just alone.
Mm-hmm.
I felt that in my heart. I
Yeah.
felt that right here. And
Ugh.
yeah, you see her have a binge. She goes downstairs in the middle of the night. She goes down to the kitchen. She binges, and you see her purge. And that is something very real. She struggled with bulimia in these early years.
Yeah.
She was very anxious. It's believed that she had some, at least from what I've read. This is not my these are not my words.
Yeah.
It is believed that she had some form of bipolar because she would have these fine and these manic episodes. It was believed, but we will never know for sure.
Yeah.
But then she gets a card from Camilla.
Oh my god. Well, before we get to this, I have to talk about one other scene that happens just because I love it so much. And it is her roller skating with her Walkman around the palace. And I just love it.
Yes.
I just love it.
Yes, I love it where you can see them like kind of like turn and look, and she's just minding her own business, looking at paintings, looking up and down, and she could. It really felt. It did feel like a child just going
Yeah.
through things. And now, one thing I find interesting, they did it both in episode 3 and in episode 4. Whenever Diana watches television, she's watching cartoons.
Oh yeah, no, definitely.
She's watching child programming, which, as someone who is working through some trauma, that's something very common. Someone who
Oh
experienced
yeah.
something traumatic as a child, they sort of grab hold of these. You could even see, spoiler alert, in 1997 when she died, when someone went in and photographed her apartment
Hmm.
8 and apartment 9 at Kensington Palace. She had a whole love seat filled with child stuffed animals that she like had with her always. So I really liked that the show didn't stray away from, just hinting and alluding that, she had a hard childhood. Yes,
Yeah.
her family's aristocratic and she had, this and she had that, but,
Yeah.
her parents didn't have the best relationship and she didn't have a good
No.
relationship with her stepmother. So
No.
we're seeing it unfold on camera.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But let's
So,
talk about the lunch with Camilla.
oh, ooh, God, I hate Camilla. So Diana is kind of invited to this lunch with Camilla. Is she invited or does she kind of initiate? Because it was hard for me to tell.
If my memory is correct, one, she got the bouquet at Clarence's house. She did not get it at
Okay.
Buckingham Palace. She got it
Yeah.
sent, and it was Camilla that sent it to her. She got a note
Yeah.
that, congrats, can't wait to see the ring, love Camilla, blah, 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 blah. And I believe it was Diana that reached out to have lunch. I'm not quite
Okay.
sure who reached out to who, but my gut is telling me it was Diana that reached out.
Yeah.
Or it was Camilla had already planned it and Diana confirmed. My gut is telling me that Diana, but I'm
Yeah.
opening that up to be wrong.
Yeah. We don't know for sure. But
Yes.
oh my God, just this condescending nature of, oh, you don't know that he doesn't eat lunch? I mean, one of his gurus got him on it because supposedly it's not good for the body to eat more than 2 meals a day. So I mean, I'm surprised that he didn't tell you about this, that you not noticed this. I mean, you are engaged, and it's just like,
And oh, I love that you could feel her just boiling.
yeah,
But she didn't lose it. That's one thing I love is
no,
she just she cut her food really hard and she would eat it really hard. But one thing that was true that was asked that one thing I love is that they treat Diana as if she's stupid, but she wasn't stupid.
no.
Diana
She's
knew
just
what was
young.
going on. Yeah, they're like, oh, she's young, she's stupid. No, she's, oh, you can't have intellectual conversations with her. Okay, that's fine, but she knows what's going on. She's not stupid.
Mhm.
She may not, she's openly admitted that she was not the best student. There was a speech where she went, I feel weird talking to all of you because I did really bad on my O levels, but here you are all just past your A levels. I never got that far. I
Yeah,
love that she that was an actual speech she gave. She was very openly that she was not a good student,
Hmm.
but she's not stupid. And you can
No.
really feel that they're treating her like she's stupid. But that's one thing that she asked, oh, do you like going to the country? Oh, you like London more? Oh, well, do you hunt? Do you swim? Do you fish? And that was Camilla. That actually happened. You can hear her talk about it in Diana in her own words on
Hmm.
Netflix, where she went, I'm not stupid. That's where you and Charles go.
Yeah.
I'm not stupid. And the one note I have there is one, why would Charles recommend, oh, go hang out with Camilla while I'm gone? And two, this is such an uncomfortable conversation.
Oh God, yes. Oh God, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And then, if I might just kind of transition this, we find out their nicknames for one another.
Yes, we find out that Fred and Gladys are the
Oh.
code names for each other, which that is those were the code names that they had for each other. But also, a couple things that she said really quickly that were a little alarming to me. She said, oh well, it's easier to just adapt to him and just go with whatever he does. That's what was said.
Hmm.
I also wrote that this is just a big my horse is bigger than your horse contest.
Yeah.
And then she went, "Oh, I'm all for sharing."
Yeah, no, that line made me mad. I'm just like,
That, mm-hmm.
Diana doesn't need to share, and you need to back up. Because as
Back
much
up.
as Charles might be in love with you, you are going to be creating more issues by doing this than solving problems.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Back
Mm-hmm.
off.
Back off. And in my reading, there was a point where Camilla actually went in history. She went, "Look, this needs to stop." And there actually
Yeah.
was a period where Camilla and Charles were apart, and there was actually a happy period. They did end up falling in love for each other.
Hmm.
They found middle ground, but we all know what happens. One thing I find really weird that the show really didn't explore much is, yes, Diana found the plans for the bracelet, but she
Hmm.
found the plans to the bracelet the day he was leaving, not the day before the wedding rehearsal. I believe it was the wedding rehearsal she found cufflinks
Ugh.
that had CC in them, like the Chanel logo. Yeah, but she found, which is why she cried. The show didn't explore this, which I thought was really weird.
Hmm.
The press, when they just get engaged, they do this whole press junket,
Hmm.
and he then, like, a couple days later, has to leave to go on a 6 week tour. And
Yeah.
in history, they were having a meeting, and they were going over his schedule. She was seeing his schedule, and Camilla called, and he took the call, was telling her about everything, and she went and looked at stuff and found the bracelet
Hmm.
and confronted him about it. They had an awful fight. Then they went to the airfield, put on good graces,
Hmm.
and her crying. Everybody, there's shots of her crying about, oh, she's so sad he's leaving. No, she's sad because she's crying because she knows Camilla's not gone.
Yeah.
That's why
Ugh.
she's really crying.
Ugh.
But one thing that, I wrote a bracelet. He's still trying to hide it. Margaret does come in clutch a little bit though. So towards the
Hmm.
end of the episode, when Charles comes back, so this whole episode, the bulk of it, this 53-minute episode, a bulk of it is you're spending time with Diana alone. She's in
Hmm.
the palace. She's trying to call the queen won't take her call.
Yeah.
She's trying to call Prince Charles. He won't take her call. She's calling her friends, and sometimes they pick up, sometimes not. And you can feel her going insane. She's just getting
Yes.
mountains of mail. She's getting mountains
Hmm.
of just praise from the people, but they don't know the full story.
Yeah.
And Charles finally comes back, and they're at St. Paul's Cathedral doing the wedding rehearsal,
Yeah.
and they we see Diana way off in the distance. She's sort of being in her own little world. The family comes up, they see Charles. Oh my god, hi! Oh my god, oh my god! But Margaret knows what's up. Margaret knows what's
Hmm.
good, and they go into the one of the side corners, and they begin to have a very quiet argument. And Margaret, kind of peeks her head up, kind of, hmm. And because Margaret knows better.
Yeah.
And this is where Diana confronts, like, oh, you know, I found the bracelet. Is it for
Mhm.
Gladys? And he kind of looks and goes,
How do
because
you know that
yeah, she
name?
told me. Yeah, she's like, yeah, she told me. And this is where Charles gets caught, and he gaslights her.
Yeah.
He, no, no, she goes, why didn't you come see me after you came back? Why'd you go to Gloucestershire?
Mhm.
And he's like, well, I had to do. It's like, this is case line, textbook gaslighting here.
Yeah.
And then it goes to what I think are two very powerful scenes.
Mhm.
The first scene, we see the Queen Mother, Princess Margaret, and then the Duke of Edinburgh comes in. And Margaret's sitting there and she goes, why are we doing this?
Yeah.
And Princess Margaret comes to Diana's defense in a way. She doesn't outright say it, but she goes,
Mhm.
why is this happening? Why are we letting him make the same mistake again?
Yeah.
And what were your thoughts on that
It
scene?
was it was beautifully said, and I mean it rings true for so much of that family over history. It
Mm-hmm.
rings true for so much of that family over history. And I feel, if I remember correctly, she was one of those people who she wanted to marry a specific person and it was shot down by the royal family. And
Mm-hmm.
so she basically says, what is with this family? And saying, no, we don't approve of this person. You have to marry this person. And then being surprised when things don't turn out well.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's really well said and rings true. Why are we saying no to these people when this is all our hearts want, knowing good and well that if because of this, things are not going to end well with whatever relationship you force me into?
Yes, I very much agree, and I do like that. The Duke of Edinburgh was he. I think he made a pretty good point where he went, as Diana settles, she
Mm-hmm.
gets more confident. She's only 19. She's really she. He basically says she's not done developing yet. When
No.
she's done, when she becomes more confident, she settles into her role. When she really gets the hang of things,
Mm-hmm.
you know, she'll be that much more attractive because she'll have this level of confidence, which I like that he sort of insinuated that confidence is what makes you attractive, not looks.
Yeah.
It's like, your confidence is what.
Yeah.
And yeah, Margaret just lays it out there. She dead ass says, how many times will this family make the same mistake?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And the queen goes up and she walks, and the whole nation's celebrating because it's the eve of the wedding of Prince Charles and Lady Diana, and they're rejoicing and celebrating, and they have a very poignant conversation
Mm-hmm.
where she points out, hey, Queen Mary, which, sidebar, I would love to meet Queen Mary. I would love to sit and have, like, I would love to sit and just probe her brain. um but she has another conversation about falling in love. And what did you think about that?
My thoughts with that are, yes, that might have happened and come true for the couple she's speaking of, but that's not guaranteed 100% of the time. And so I
Mm-hmm.
appreciate it. And I feel like the conversation was more along the lines of hearts can heal when something happens and you can grow to love a person. I'm like, that's fine and dandy and great and all, but you were talking about somebody's who was going to marry somebody's brother and the husband died. Well, and then the husband died. And so she married
Mm-hmm.
the brother instead. And it's just like growing to love somebody else when the person that you were intending to marry is dead is very different. Is very
Mm-hmm.
different than being forced to marry somebody when the person that you're in love with is still alive. And so, like, I
Yes.
appreciate it. I get where she was coming from. I get it. But at the same time, this is not the same circumstance.
Yes, I appreciate that the one through line that she used a comparative example of, look, they found common ground.
Hmm.
They knew what their job was. They came to an agreement. They knew what their job was.
Yeah.
That their job and their duty really went before their personal feelings.
Hmm.
And they found common ground. They worked within that common ground, and from there they found this bond that lasted until his dying day.
Yeah.
And she basically looks and goes, I know you're unhappy,
Hmm.
and I know you still love Camilla,
Hmm.
but this is your duty.
Yeah.
This love may not be the same, but this is your duty. You need to come to some common ground.
Absolutely.
And I really appreciated that. I do agree with you that the situation's different. That when the Prince of Wales, before, when Queen Mary's time, when Queen Mary was then a princess and was going to marry, at the time, the Prince of Wales, he did caught, my memory, he caught pneumonia and died like that, like he
Hmm.
caught it and then was boomed down. And
Yeah.
they were talking about engagement. They never got married. They actually were only engaged for, I think, a very brief period. And they went, well, hey,
Hmm.
we like you, you're gonna get here, let's go over here, let's put you off to the new heir.
Yeah.
And I do appreciate that she also kind of acknowledges that, look, they still had affairs, but they made it work. They had a
Hmm.
common understanding, they had a common love, and they had a common respect for each other.
Yeah.
Find that. If you can
Yeah.
find it, find it.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a very poignant and a very powerful moment where they sort of acknowledge, the show acknowledges that this affair is really not going to go away, but
No.
they need to find this common ground, which I think they found for a period.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there were times where when they were happy, there were times, but I thought these two scenes in particular, away from
Hmm.
Diana, because we spent
Yeah.
so much time with her this episode, which I thought was really nice. It gave Emma
Yes.
Corrin some nice airtime, and we got to spend time
Love her.
we got to spend more time with young Diana.
Yes. Yes.
And then the episode ends with them getting ready for the wedding. We never
Yeah.
see the wedding.
We do not see the wedding. No.
No. And that's because if you want to watch the wedding, it's on YouTube. The full
Yeah.
like 3 hour events on the Royal Family YouTube page. That's why they didn't do it, because it's already there.
Yeah.
But one thing I find interesting, they used audio from it.
Yes. Well, before they got to the wedding, I have something that I absolutely adore. And it's something very quick, but it's a cutaway when you were in Margaret's room seeing her getting ready. She has, it's either a pillow or a needlepoint work that's hanging on the wall, but it says it's not easy to be a
You see,
princess.
to
And
be a
I love
princess.
it and I want it.
Oh yes, in my book on
It's
Princess
so good.
Margaret, yeah, it was she would have those. She'd have those little fun things all around her house. But yeah, there's these fun little this fun little gems hidden.
Yes.
But yeah, Margaret has, it's not easy being a princess.
Yeah.
And that's very, very true.
Yeah.
But the episode ends, and you see the family getting ready for the wedding. We see them getting on their clothes and watching the TV. We see the wedding dress. They completely replicate the wedding dress. They actually contacted Emmanuel's and did it in collaboration with them.
Yes.
But this episode, ends. They're going to the wedding, and it has the real audio from there when whomever was proceeding over it. I think it was one of the archbishops was proceeding over it, and talks about, this is the stuff with which fairy tales are made. That is the real audio
Yeah.
from the wedding. But in closing, leads to general discussion. Yeah, this episode, fairy tale, is all about Diana.
Yeah.
She's now in the family, but she's not okay.
No.
Diana's not okay.
No.
We see very well, there's multiple scenes where we see her crying. She's alone in her apartments.
Hmm.
No one she calls, no one's there. She's wandering the halls. And I thought this was a very beautiful portrait. No one knows exactly what truly happened because she has since passed, and
Yeah.
we only have what she's talked about. But I very much appreciate that they're trying to fill us in. You know, some of us,
Yes.
not everyone's me that's read the books on her and knows not everybody's me.
Some of
So
us are me that knows the end game, but not the plot that led up to it.
yes. And so I appreciate that in this episode, that's what Peter Morgan's really good at, which people get kind of angry about. They go, you know, will this ever really happened? Yeah, it didn't necessarily happen that way, but he's informing the character very briefly through these interactions. Like, we see that she's, you know, soft spoken, she's shy, she isolates herself, which are all very, you know, characteristics of someone who's experienced trauma. You know, I've
Yeah.
done that before. I've withdrawn, isolated myself. I've her one meltdown when she is dancing in
Mm-hmm.
the one drawing room, which,
Yeah.
fun fact, guess what song's actually playing there?
Why do I want to say it's something from Flashdance?
No, so
Okay.
they put in a song over it. They sort of made their own
Yeah.
track over it to sound
Yeah.
like something Billy Joel. But in reality, in the ballroom, so they're actually at a manor home. This is
Yeah.
behind the scenes. They're at a manor home, they have it all staged, and Emma Corrin and Peter are talking with one of the choreographers, and Emma goes, I have an idea here. We're trying to choreograph this meltdown, but I don't think this is actually what'll happen. This is
Mm-hmm.
not what I want to do. So she talks to them and goes, I kind of want to start, but I just kind of want to go. I just want to
Mm-hmm.
let go, and can we play whatever music I want? And he goes, you do realize, you know, we have. She's like, you can put in whatever you want afterwards
Yeah.
for the
Yeah.
scene. Can
Editing.
I pick the music I want to?
Yeah.
Yeah, she goes, editing. You do whatever you want. He goes, oh, okay, great, cool, wonderful.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
put
Solid.
whatever
We're good.
music you want. So she does the scene, and she's dancing to Cher's "Believe."
Yes. Share.
She's dancing to Cher, and apparently you can find this video on YouTube. She's
Mm.
dancing, she does the full thing, and everybody's like, "Oh my god!" Oh, like she goes there, and they yell "cut," and she gets herself together, and Peter walks up and goes, "Emma, we need you to do that again." And she goes, "What?" And she kind of looks and goes,
What?
"What?" And Peter goes, you were lip syncing to the track. We can see that Billy Joel's not playing. We can see your face. And she goes, oh, ugh. And so she
Yes.
collects herself together. She comes back to zero, and they do it again.
Oh.
But I think there's some shots that it's really raw, and
Mm-hmm.
I've had that meltdown when all of a sudden you think you're fine, and all of a sudden you're just throwing things and you're on the floor. Oh yeah, that's when
Oh
I
yeah.
call my sister at 10 o'clock at night crying. Oh yeah, I very much related to Diana in this
Yeah.
episode as someone who struggles with their mental health.
Yeah.
So, what are your closing thoughts on this episode?
My closing thoughts. Um, for me, it's Diana is such an endearing character, and I wrote something slightly profound. It's probably not that profound now that I'm looking back on it, but what did I say? Ah, it's possible to be adored and extremely lonely.
Yes,
And
that is a great way.
I feel like that's what a majority of this episode really shows is you can be adored, you can be a celebrity, you can be a princess and still be extremely isolated and extremely lonely. And we're I've already seen up through episode 7 now. I finished episode 7, and so it's not gonna get better, unfortunately. And I feel that wholeheartedly. I feel that wholeheartedly. And as somebody in the performing field, oh gosh, I feel that. I feel that.
Oh
Sometimes
yes.
we we do what we do for the art, but sometimes we do what we do for the love and admiration that we feel like we are not getting elsewhere in our lives, and sometimes that's just not true. And I don't know, but it definitely hit me hard. This episode hit me hard.
Mm,
It got me in the feels. It got me in my mental illness. But yeah.
Oh yes, it that is very much you could be so admired and be so lonely. That is a wonderful statement for this entire episode. Yeah, it was. You know, one of the things that what this episode made me think of is the statement. You know, sometimes you know the funniest people can make the best dramatic actors because they usually use comedy and laughter to deal with their pain, so they can really
Yeah.
go. That's why Robin Williams was such a great dramatic actor.
Yeah.
You know, he really rode that line with comedy and drama really well, and I thought this was a wonderful example of that. That, you know, she's so loved, and it really shows that family wasn't ready for her. They thought
No.
that they would be ready for her, but they weren't, and that's not their fault. And you know,
Mm-mm.
Diana even said, you know, that day she felt like she was, you know, okay, cool, great. They found their sacrificial lamb. They
Yeah.
found someone to just produce an heir and be this docile, and she wasn't going to do that. That's not the type of
Yeah.
person she was. And the family just wasn't ready for her. No fault on the family, no fault on
Mm-hmm.
her. It was, you know, to quote Kate Winslet from the proposal, it was a square peg in a round hole. It
Yeah.
just at the time just wasn't meant to click, and we're seeing that here.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you know, Margaret came to her defense, and in episode 4 the queen comes to her
Mm-hmm.
defense.
Yeah. Well,
We'll talk about it in a minute.
tune in for next week's episode. But
Yes, but yeah, to wrap this, to put a nice little bow on it, this episode goes there.
it goes there.
and i
So
like and I like that the episode goes there.
absolutely. You've been
Mm-hmm.
warned. It definitely delves a lot into mental illness. If you are somebody who is triggered by anything eating disorder related, please be warned about that. But
Yes.
it's raw, it's emotional, but I feel like it is still very well done and in good
Yes,
taste.
it was handled with very good care. That's what I appreciate.
Yes.
It didn't feel like a woe is me, feel bad for her. It was a lot of just, we're dropping a camera and we're just
And-
letting these scenes play out. That's
yeah.
what I really felt. It felt real. It didn't feel like shame
Yes.
to me. It didn't feel like a, oh, feel bad for her, feel bad, feel bad. No, it was
Yeah.
just a, this is what happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Which,
absolutely.
tongue in cheeks, you know,
Yeah.
we have to take it with tongue in cheek because it is a fictitious telling of events. But yeah,
Yeah.
if you've made it this far, thank you. Hit
Yeah.
the subscribe button, hit that like button, hit the bell notification. If you like what we're doing and want to provide your own feedback, hit the comments down below. In the description box has links to all of our socials and how to find
Yes.
the podcast on Spotify and Anchor, but you can also find the main podcast on Spotify, Anchor, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. And when this goes live, we'll be discussing, should your high school be doing, you know, insert racially diverse show here? Should your all white high school be doing insert racially diverse casters? So if you want to tune in over there, if you like spending time with us,
Yes.
hi, welcome to the family. But yeah, follow us, subscribe, comment, share. And with that, have we done the thing?
We've done the thing.
All right. Have a good rest of your day. And
Stay royal. Bye.
yes. See ya.